Hello everyone, welcome to the GLORIO Chat, the best anime podcast on the internet. Feels like it's been a million years since our last episode, but for various reasons. But we're here, we're back, and are you guys excited for the new anime season?
We're back from the anime mines, and we have treasures to share with you all.
Yes.
Are the anime mines and the shit mines from Decadence just the same thing?
Yeah, they
Basically.
We mine the shit, and we drink the shit, and then we shit the shit, and continue mining the shit.
There's some good things happening, right? There's some good shows, but yes. So we are going to talk about the new anime season, winter 2021, which does not sound like a real year, but here we are. Also, season 35 of the GLORIO blog, for those counting.
How dare you.
Before we get into that, let's introduce who we have on the podcast. If you haven't heard already, I'm Jel. I am joined by Iro.
It's 2021, and I'm not dead yet.
Amazingly, despite the world's best efforts. And we're also joined by G.
I can't believe it's January 17th, and we're already 6 months into the year.
I know, right? Yeah, we're in December 47th here. 48th.
Getting a lot of, this DLC for 2020 has quite a lot of value to it if you go for game time.
Yeah. And this episode, we are joined by Aqua.
I should be the one taking over Ero's catchphrase this time, because I am still here, even though I haven't really made an appearance on the blog in several months.
It's been a while since we've had you on, so I'm glad we
Indeed.
could get you in the rotation for this one. But yeah, so winter 2021 season. I feel like this one's going to be a little divisive, because I had a lot of things I liked. I don't know if you guys agree on that, but
I do. I see where you're coming from, Jill, because I look at a season like this, and I immediately go, "Oh, this is one of those seasons that certain people on this blog are going to be talking a lot about, and I'm going to have absolutely nothing to say."
I think there's some stuff that I like, but I think all of it's on thin ice.
That's a good way of putting it, Iro. I think is like, I hate to compare it to the legendary winter season, winter 2020 season, but I feel like the thing for me with 2021 is like there's a lot of shows I like, but there's none of them where I'm immediately like,
oh hell yeah, can't wait to watch this.
Yeah.
there are a couple things I may not be watching by next episode for sure, but I think there were some things that caught my attention at least, which we are going to talk about.
Yeah, I would agree with Jel. There are a couple of shows that give me the impression that I'll still be watching them in a couple of months' time. But most of all, this is a season of second seasons and third seasons. Like, this is a sequel season.
Some very long ones, too.
All the sequels from 2020 that got delayed.
So there's a lot of high-profile seasons, kind of stuff, like a bunch of everything for everyone. Like, we have BEASTARS, but we also have a bunch of we have some Shonen Jump stuff coming back. We have some very well-known in the more comfy / slice of life thing. We have non-BRE coming back. We have Laid Back Camp coming back. So
neither of which we're talking about in this podcast, by the way, because
indeed,
none of us watch it. But
I think the point is that's kind of like if the defining trait of the season is the sequels.
Yeah. I just want to bring that up.
We are going to talk about a couple of
Blast
those
season.
for sure.
But there was a lot of excitement, I guess, in various corners of the anime internet, which is fun to see in any case.
Right.
I'll take this over Isekai Avalanche of the season.
What was that, Ira?
I will take this kind of season over a season of Isekai Avalanche.
I mean, don't worry.
There's plenty of those, too.
Yeah, I mean, this is a season of Isekai Avalanche.
We're not talking
You're right,
about...
they're just not on this list.
Literally, the first show on our list is an Isekai, Iro.
Look,
I'm sorry.
okay, but it's an old one.
I didn't really watch any of the bad Isekai shows, but I've heard there's a pretty nasty crop.
You're right. I think we
there's a pretty nasty crop of them. From what I've heard,
instantly put them out of mind after seeing them. So
yeah, I'm just hoping to ignore them and they will go away someday. At this point.
I mean, we have a good and admirable policy of simply not mentioning any of those revenge rape isekai shows,
because there are a couple of those this season.
The shows that shall not be named of
yes, well, speaking of
the
isekai,
anime
but speaking of isekai, let's kick off our discussion. We'll tackle some sequels first. And we can get warmed up by looking at the Return of Log Horizon Season 3.
We're no longer living in the database.
The data is all gone.
What happened?
Yeah, I'll point out. I think it was Funimation that had the audacity to
put the opening up early.
No, they tweeted something saying database.
They don't even have database anymore.
And they don't have database anymore, so someone clearly did not do their homework on that one.
Our counteractions are no longer rising. We are no longer ready for the punchline.
I don't know what's wrong with this, but it's definitely the SJW's fault.
So, to give some context, since this show is a sequel to a 7-year-old anime, we're talking about Log Horizon, maybe not the granddaddy, but definitely early in the trend of the MMO isekai anime.
One of the few to wrangle with the game side on more than a surface fucking level.
Right, and so for a lot of us, we really grew to love the show, and it's really... just the basic premise is kind of, we don't even get that deep into it. It's an isekai MMO show. A bunch of dudes get transported into, the world of their favorite MMO, and they kind of have to figure out, how to rebuild society, basically. And unlike a lot of isekai, what Log Horizon did super well is that, it actually asked some really interesting questions about, what would happen to a society that is suddenly inhabited by thousands of, super powered individuals with vast resources and very little motivation to survive, honestly. It's and a lot of the show was about finding meaning in that new world and finding ways to adapt to it, and it's highly specific rule sets, and you could tell in a lot of ways that unlike a lot of isekai that were just kind of capitalizing on the the popularity of the trend, that Log Horizon definitely felt like it was written by someone who was very familiar, or, to a certain extent, familiar with MMO tropes and, gaming culture.
Sure.
I mean, to be honest, if I want to watch people who have hit the level cap in an MMO and can't stop playing nevertheless, I'll just check my Twitter feed for all those people who are playing Final Fantasy XIV.
Right. I mean, that's kind of the thing.
So, I guess my question is the show holding up in 2021?
Good How was question.
That's a great question, Joe.
The eponymous round table, season 3 is titled "Destruction of the Round Table,"
which is a great subtitle. By the way,
the eponymous round table was the council that they put together in season 1 to basically provide direction to society. And this first episode sort of details how it's it's going to break apart, and it was kind of confusing and poorly subtitled.
Yeah,
I didn't really understand what was happening until I went and looked at the fan wiki later.
Which is not a great look for a show, especially one that is trying to leave a strong first impression after a 7-year absence. We've seen this a couple times before, right? I remember a few years ago I was talking about Full Metal Panic getting a new season after nearly a decade.
D. Gray Man also, right?
Right, and the thing is that, a lot of those, Log Horizon Season 3 doesn't do really anything to onboard anybody who hasn't, kept up in a while. And I don't necessarily need that, but it went beyond not... It went beyond not just being familiar or having, the plot of Log Horizon in recent memory. Even the way they introduced the new plot was a little clumsy. It was a little... And it's hard to tell if that's just maybe the bad subtitles or just, it really just has been that long and our memories have truly evaporated, but
yeah,
it definitely feels like they introduced a conflict in this season, which is a new conflict, so it didn't necessarily require you to have knowledge of the old season, but they didn't do a super great job of like giving the context for where the conflict was coming from.
So it was
Right.
so it wasn't like it was confusing because you had to remember fine details from 7 years ago.
No,
just,
it was just confusing
Right.
because what the show purported to be the explanation in the first half of the episode was poorly conveyed.
Right. And
And
again,
were you guys watching the official subs?
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. The GLORIO blog does not endorse piracy, etc., etc. But yes.
But and I really hope I'm not jumping at phantoms here.
I'm
but
I'm
I
with
think
G on this one for the record.
There is a certain language that this new season is couched in that maybe I only now recognize after
The past 6 years.
the past having borne witness to the last 6-7 years of society.
Fuck.
But so the conflict of the new season is essentially that one of the guild members wants to create a sort of welfare system for players. Basically,
boy.
because not all players are at max level, that some sort of welfare system would allow for lower level players to sustain themselves in this new world. The
they
idea
want
is
to
that
raise the minimum wage to.
it kind of, because like the idea is that like these people who've been isekai'd, they're all still regular people. Like some of them have adapted very well, right? Like you have your people who are like, oh hell yeah, MMO world, now I can like
finally
fight
be a
people.
ninja for realsies.
But a lot of people are just regular dudes. Like the leader of the
Right.
guild who suggests this is like the obligatory like newbie friendly MMO guild whose specialty
Right.
is writing like guides and walkthroughs for new players. So their guild is naturally full of a lot of people who are
Right.
like, kind of casual to the game.
Yeah,
Like
and they specifically note that like people who are leaving other guilds because they're dissatisfied are kind of flocking to his guild.
right. And he's kind of caught in a weird position because he was also given a very difficult task in universe. Like they discovered these like teleportation circles in the MMO, but they have no like rhyme or reason to their schedule or where they teleport you to. So he is sending like these really costly expeditions into these mysterious like teleportation circles where sometimes his dudes don't come back. And he
Right.
is clearly caught in this weird place of like he has a large number of new casual players he has to like support while also like paying for these like really expensive, dangerous expeditions. And the rest of the guild, the rest of the round table are like, fuck you, pull yourself up by your bootstraps, basically.
Right, he's like, can we get more like funding or whatever? And then other guilds are like, well, you see, we did our own crowdfunding and are getting plenty of funding. I don't know what you need us to help you with.
I mean, I guess there's a reason why the author went to jail for tax evasion.
Right, and so it's like the thing of once you realize like what happened to the author, and again, I don't mean to say that we can ascribe the author's like personal politics as a result of that, but suddenly there are enough like not necessarily dog whistles, but like there's certain terms being thrown about in the new season that almost have you wondering, oh god, is this season going to be about the evils of the welfare state?
Right.
Like, they're already, like, sort of couching their language in that, like, there are MMO equivalents of welfare queens in this anime.
Leechers, you say.
Right, like, oh, they're called leechers. They're players who just want to leech off of society but don't put in any real work themselves. And, again, maybe it's just that it's been 6-7 years since we've watched Log Horizon. Maybe this language, maybe it's this ideology was always in this show. But after, we're older now, and you see stuff like this, and you can't help but wonder, like, and again, I might be jumping at Phantoms, honestly.
I hope we are.
But there's just enough,
that's well, first of all, I mean, not that taking that type of stance would be good at any point, but this was written at this point, it would have been written a long time ago, right?
Yes.
Let me actually look that up.
I mean, it must have been at least a few years old at this point, right?
Well, he did. It took a, long break.
Oh, true.
For being in prison for tax
well,
evasion.
way,
over being in jail, yes.
Either way, that would be a unfortunate stance to take. Particularly, I feel like even now, like more so than ever. But
but I believe this novel was originally released in like 2018 or 2019.
Oh, okay.
God,
okay.
it's not even that old. Oh, jeez.
Okay. Yikes.
But yeah, like there's definitely a little bit of a weird, like, don't tread on me, taxation is theft, like, subtext to some of the dialogue in this new season.
From the guy that got busted for tax evasion.
Right, and it's like, oh no, like...
Oh no.
Like, Log Horizon Season 2 was already kind of a disappointment, but we had such goodwill for Season 1 that we were willing to stick with it, and I think that Iro and I are both, like, personally deeply frightened of the reality that Log Horizon might actually just not be that good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope it turns around, but I don't have high hopes.
Nope.
Maybe
Thin
the show
ice.
we all thought would save us from fascist propaganda was actually ANCAP propaganda in disguise.
No.
I mean, that is the thing, right? Like, I definitely wouldn't say that, like, this thing is, like... I mean, yes, this thing is definitely, shall we say, bottom right of the graph, you know? Like, these people, you know... Like, Shiro, the main character, literally says, when speaking of the Round Table, actually, by technicality, we're not a real government. And it's like, yes, you are! Like, you totally are!
The closest thing that passes for government in this situation. Okay,
Right.
I've looked in, this web novel came out in 2017.
Okay, fine.
Okay, that's pretty recent.
It's just like...
But
yes, their insistence is that they are like a bunch of private individuals who have merely congregated together in cooperation is like some of the most fucking ridiculous ANCAP shit I've ever heard.
I think the real reason, or the real way to find out if this is an ANCAP propaganda is, does at any point someone say, actually it's ephebophilia?
Oh God. I mean,
Don't get me started on love triangle bullshit in that show.
God.
Anyway, but I will. Okay, I will. I will try to be charitable to the show and say at least this tier of conflict is way more interesting than the usual isekai shit.
Right, it is legitimately interesting. Like the conflict is about a political upheaval. It is about the fragmentation of like an authority that was like considered the status quo of the setting. So.
Right.
It is doing way more interesting stuff than your typical isekai. I think the only reason Iro and I are even speaking like this at all is because of the like very high bar.
Yeah, at least they're not just looking at the camera and saying, with my overpowered abilities, I'll live as I like now.
Right. Like, even if these people are maybe, we're beginning to realize, are like weird ANCAP heroes or something, like the characters still feel an obligation towards serving their society, which like is in and of itself still a more admirable motivation than most isekai heroes.
Yeah, I don't know, guys. Though
Look,
it's not sounding good from what you're telling me. I don't know.
When database disappeared, the show went downhill.
Right, I know, and the data's all gone. I mean, also like database was the look. I've said multiple times in the past. I literally only watched Log Horizon because I saw the OP and I was like, that's a show I should watch.
Yeah,
Again, it's not the biggest deal in the world, but it is definitely speaks to a loss of that show's identity.
Bad decisions all around here, but all right, we got to move on.
Yep.
I know.
You'll have to keep us posted on how far they go with that one. All right.
So who actually watched this next one?
I did.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Promise.
I did.
Okay, yeah. So Promise Neverland season 2's fired up here.
Uh-huh.
We kind of talked about last time how none of us wanted season 2 to exist because season 1, I feel like tied up everything thematically, emotionally, spiritually, everything that
season 2
needed to be done.
Is firmly in the now.
And I gave it a I gave season 2 a courtesy watch.
Okay.
And I did watch the 2 episodes that are out. Which I think you kind of need to do because I think episode 2 is when they get more into what's actually going on.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, I mean, it's pretty much exactly what I was expecting in that I am no longer interested in any of this that's going on right now. The status quo change is like everything I liked about season 1 is gone. And, because like season 1, I really liked the whole
setting of we're trapped in this house.
Yeah, the whole claustrophobic tension and the mind games.
Mama is such a good villain. She's such a fucking good villain.
Yeah, and all of that's gone, and what they've replaced it with does not necessarily seem bad, at least not right now, but it's just not as good. And I'm like, why do I want to watch a downgraded version of this show is kind of how I feel about it. And this is coming from, I think you guys have all read the manga, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So
I think you're very much on the money. I think overall
this is coming from somebody who has no baggage from the manga, just strictly from watching the anime. I'm like, this is just a slightly worse version of the show. Why would I want to watch this? But that said, I mean, like I said, what they're doing is not necessarily bad. I feel like it's maybe the logical next steps to take if you are going to do a post-escape series on this. But I don't know. I don't know. What are you guys thinking?
I think you're pretty much right on the money
you watched it, yeah.
Yeah, I think you're pretty much right on the money as a new viewer, that you sort of reflect the sentiments of people who have read the rest of the manga, because I think the general opinion on this seems to be it's great when they're in the house and everything else is sort of superfluous. It is the CW-ification of the Promised Neverland. We're gonna keep dragging this out without really knowing where to go.
That's a good way to describe it.
So, and the way why I use that metaphor is because now that they're out of the house, they're gonna try and work with lore and world building, and that's definitely the weakest part of the original manga. I think it's tolerable now, but it's going to get absolutely insufferable.
I could see it going downhill fast for sure.
I do believe, because I sort of disagree with G in that I don't think this second season is completely perishable. I think the material this is based on is still, fun, high quality Shonen Jump material.
It's the second best part of the Promised Neverland.
Yes.
I agree with you, Aqua. I do think that the second. I think if you go back far enough in the podcast, I think you can quote me on saying Season 2 of Promised Neverland will probably still be okay.
Yeah,
it's...
and Season 3 will be just
it's a solid arc. There are some interesting new characters. I think that there are some interesting things they do with the world and how they expand it in your hypothetical Season 2. It's just... the core premise of the original is so strong. It's just hard to top it.
Yeah, and the thing is also, I think what sort of put me back on team The Promised Neverland after the manga wrapped up is seeing this anime again, because I'll admit I only watched the first episode of Season 1 because I was just oh no, I've read this already, I don't need to see this. But now that Season 2 has started, I've been watching it along with Zig, who has not read the manga and who is obviously interested in watching in watching this. So I've been watching it along with him and Iro, and it just came to me how incredibly well made of an adaptation this is. This is the direction is cinema quality, the animation is fine. Is great. I mean, fine is a bad way to put it. No, the animation is great, but this is not a quote-unquote Sakuga show, it's not a very action-heavy show, but the art direction is incredibly atmospheric, the performances are great. This is the first time in a very, very long time I've had the feeling that an anime based on a manga I've read was actually better than the source material, because all of the expression, the vividness of Posca de Bisu's art really comes to life in color and with the way they're portraying it here, and it's sort of stunning how they managed to do that. So definite thumbs up for that. I mean, that immediately gave the show a lot of goodwill again back in my book.
Yeah. So I think hey, if you haven't watched Promised Neverland, still worth watching Season 1. Yes. Season 1 was great. I just don't know. I don't know if I'm going to even keep up with Season 2. We'll see. It's just my heart is just not in this at all.
I mean, at this point. That's the thing with Season 1. It exists perfectly as a standalone story.
You could stop at the end of Season 1.
And it's just okay, satisfied. If you like these characters, I guess there's more. Yeah, and it's not terrible, and it doesn't completely destroy everything that made the reasons why you loved the first season good. So I mean, I guess that's an endorsement.
Yeah.
I will say that I remember the events of season 2 from reading the manga. If you asked me anything that happened after where season 2 would probably end, I couldn't tell you what happens at all.
Nope.
Yeah, something, reforged the promise.
Something. And it's like, I guess it ended. I don't remember what happened. But this part, I'm like, yeah, I do remember this.
Something, William Minerva, something.
All right. So we'll see how my mood is next week when the show goes on. I don't know if I'm going to keep up with that one, but we'll see how it goes. All right, let's talk about Cells at Work in both varieties, I guess.
Yep.
Yeah.
Is both a sequel and a new show.
As we mentioned in the preview podcast, we got this weird season where we have 2 Cells at Work anime.
Cells at Work Power Hour.
Cells at Work
time.
and the cooler Cells at Work. Actually, no, plot twist, they're both super goobery because they're both still like edutainment shows.
Well, I think that there's something to be... So anyways, we were talking about Cells at Work Season 2, and then its spin-off, Cells at Work Black.
Code Black.
Yes.
Which, if you haven't remembered, it is the anime that it's anime Osmosis Jones.
Ozzy and
it's
Drake.
about
But what if Osmosis Jones had big gans?
Yeah. What if Osmosis Jones was hot, basically? Which, and the sad truth is, you could apply that to both of them because both of them are clearly doing a lot of waifu baiting. But
who's the waifu in regular Cells at Work?
Well, they introduce new ones like all the time, you know. Like you had like the buff tomboy one, you had like the Ara mommy maid one.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of fan art of Platelet Mom, who was
the new one, Platelet Mom, Mega Karyocyte.
That was their Platelet Mom.
A shark-toothed like Sukuban mommy.
Okay.
It's
okay.
You hear me, right? You hear me. And because like in real biology, it's like one of the biggest cells in the body, so she's like fucking Amazonian. It's pretty good.
So, I did not get a chance to watch these. I'm gonna assume Cells at Work main line is pretty much the same.
It's exactly what you expect. Like
what you expect.
It's a cute OP. It's very charming. The characters are all very, they're quirky and cute, and it's the same old like edutainment thing. And then
I guess my question is, like, how different is Black? Is it like actually serious or like?
Well, it's weird. Black is interesting because in a lot of ways it is maybe the more interesting one. Like, again, if you told me the edgier, bloodier, gorier, sexier spin-off, I'd be like, no thanks, I'm good. But the thing that Black kind of does that's sort of, I think, maybe more interesting is that because it still has an edutainment angle, but because of the stakes of living in an unhealthier body, it almost feels a little bit more narratively driven than Cells at Work Vanilla, which is like purely episodic edutainment.
Right. They don't have the luxury of just going about their business every day. They have
to
stay alive.
Right, and like, I mean, it still is kind of edutainment though, in the sense of like, if Cells at Work Vanilla is like, and see here, kids, this is how like digestion works. That's why you better eat nutritiously. And then like Cells at Work Black is like, hey, fuckhead, this is what happens to your lungs if you smoke, you piece of shit. You want to do this to your body? Huh, you fucking asshole. Look at your lungs. This is what happens to your lungs if you smoke, fucker. And I gotta be honest, there's an appeal to that, honestly. Like, to this like way more in your face, like,
I mean, to me, the big difference is like that. Regular Cells at Work is a like work is fun show, and Cells at Work Black is like I hate my job show.
Yeah, like there's a fantastic joke in episode 1 of Black where like it's about these new red blood cells in their like job onboarding. So there's like the like
orientation video.
There's the orientation video.
Orientation video.
Right, that has clearly been recorded like 20 years ago.
I mean, they even have it in 4x3. So.
Yeah, and it's like, it's like, and this is the body you'll be working at. Be sure to say hello to so-and-so, And it's like everybody's like smiling and super happy. And then, of course, it like smash cuts to, the red blood cells actually working, and the facility is like filthy. You know, there's like a bunch of clotting in the veins, and everybody's a fucking asshole. Like, everybody you see in the video is like, what, those assholes are still using that video? That thing's like 20 years old.
So it's based on the inside of my body then.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
It kind of, it works. I mean, it's like, it's not the, it's still, it is kind of still Cells at Work at its core, but just like the one twist that it adds to it does make it feel a little bit more fresh.
I mean, it Cells at Work aimed at otaku, you know? Bigger tits, more blood, and it's actually like, no, this is not what the body is like. This is what your body's like, you bastard.
Yeah.
So my big question is, are you guys going to keep watching both of these?
I might, you know, like, I think it might just be interesting to compare the two throughout the season.
Yeah, because, like, I liked Cells at Work, but that's a lot of Cells at Work.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest,
every week.
I didn't finish season 1 of Cells at Work.
Yeah, I didn't finish season 1
At some
either,
point, I realized, like, two things. The first thing I realized is, like, this show isn't teaching me anything, even though it spends half of its runtime trying to teach me something. I don't remember anything, so it must be bad at teaching me things, which is a pretty...
Remember that macrophages are big.
Yeah, that's a pretty indicting measure against an edutainment show. The second thing is they had fucking cancer in episode 5. What are they going to do to top that?
And then like they had the opening over the credits and everything. And like
yeah, but that was like minor cancer. That's like the cancer everybody literally has throughout their whole life, you know? Like that's not
still, how are you going to beat that? Like the only thing I can come up with is AIDS, and that would be just depressing.
That'd be a little dark, I think.
How about
wait for the coronavirus special.
Sure.
I mean, they said that the manga is ending soon, and the final chapter will be coronavirus.
The final boss.
Yeah,
I think they did say that Black's final arc is the coronavirus
That's not okay.
Arc. So,
yeah, that seems, I don't know.
I mean, if one of them was going to do it, if one of them was going to do it, it is the edgier spin-offs.
That's a fine line to walk.
Oof.
But,
I mean, I've already heard that at some point in the edgier spin-off, there's a heart attack episode in the manga. That's apparently super dark, so...
I mean, I would believe it, but,
Yeah.
I mean, again, it's like, as a curiosity, and in a season where I'm not finding a ton of other, like, standout highlights, I don't mind watching them both for now. Like, if it gets, if my schedule gets busier, which it will, I will probably just stick with Black, just because it is the more...
interesting one.
Yeah. But...
I mean, take it like this. If you watched Cells at Work and you were like, you know what would be cool? If they went to the liver, where the blood goes to be purified, and the liver was a strip club, I would watch that.
It's a hostess club. It's a hostess club.
Definitely different.
If you played a Yakuza game, the liver is just Kamurocho.
Yeah, there you go. All right. Let's keep moving.
I wish my liver had Kiryu Kazuma inside.
I don't know what that means.
Keeping me safe.
All right. Finally, for sequels.
Time
let's talk
for
about
the real king of Winter 2021.
BEASTARS Season 2.
Yeah,
did you watch episode 2, season 2?
I watched episode 2 this morning, so I'm caught up. Season 1 was just kind of like the last time on BEASTARS, catch up episode. 1. But I
mean, that was something I wanted to mention for Log Horizon. Usually season 2s of anime are wise enough to start with like a filler bit that reintroduces the characters, and even if there is no such bit in the manga, they make something up. Like,
right. Yeah, and BEASTARS came out like barely over a year ago too, so
it's been a while. So I think episode 1.
I don't know what you're talking about, Jel. Me as a good non-pirating anime person, I only watched BEASTARS on Netflix last year.
Right. Yeah. Of course. And yes, we're all talking hypothetically about BEASTARS season 2 right now, right?
Yes.
No, episode 2 though is when okay, now this is the direction we're gonna go.
Episode 2 is the one that cracks his knuckles. Is like, all right, fuckers, now it's time for BEASTARS.
Look, it's hard. It's gonna be hard to talk about this without spoiling things too much. But back in season 1, we made a lot of comparison to the Yakuza games, and I feel like that's not changing in this, at least at this point. But oh man, in some way, like, I didn't necessarily see where they were going with Lewis, but also not terribly surprised when they did the reveal. I'm like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
This arc is where Lewis really starts to come into his own as a character. It's a lot. It's a lot.
Where we go from here, I have no idea.
Well, they spelled it out. Lewis is going to. I mean, not Lewis. Lugosi is going to find Tem's killer.
Yeah,
that's all.
Yeah, we get to see some of his amazing detective work.
Yeah.
in this episode.
Lugosi will use his pure heart and his deviant body to solve the crime.
I, for one, look forward to a detective show led by the dumbest person in the universe.
Oh, so good.
I continue to love that everybody misinterprets Lugosi's bold audacity or his stupidity for bold audacity.
Right.
Oh wow, Lugosi, the willpower emanating from him, and
he's just like, I'm just trying to do my laundry, man. Yeah.
God, yeah.
So, yeah, I'm sure we'll talk plenty about this moving forward, but let's just say if you were into BEASTARS, I guess, buckle up your seatbelts.
Oh,
God.
Strap yourself in.
We're in it, man. It's.
I'm very much looking forward to it, moving forward, for sure.
I mean, Jel, as someone who hasn't read the manga after episode 2, do you have any clearer idea of what a BEASTAR is?
No. I know it's a thing that exists. I guess we're gonna see if Lugosi ends up going down that path. Like they've come up with the most roundabout way to put him in this position, I feel like, but
I know who should be our next BEASTAR. We'll have one of the students solve this murder, not the police.
That makes perfect sense.
I mean, as a very wise plumber once said, the police doesn't solve crimes.
Yikes.
Yeah.
Man.
All right. We'll have plenty to say about that in the future, I'm sure. So
it'll be a lot of fun. It's I think as Eero and I have alluded to, season 2 is very strong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's a lot to look forward to here.
All right. Let's get to some new shows.
Yeah.
So there were, like I said, I think it's gonna be a bit divisive because I actually liked some of these things, but
so did I.
We'll get into that, and let's kick off new shows with Otherside Picnic. I had pitched this as lesbian ghost hunters on the preview show.
I mean, kinda.
While technically I don't think they're ghosts per se.
They're urban legends.
Right.
I get Major Inspector vibes from this show.
Yes, because they're hunting down weird stuff that spreads on the internet, but it's actually real.
I've seen more than one description of this show refer to it as them hunting creepypasta.
I mean, yes, basically.
Yes, pretty much.
So the idea is Otherside Picnic is a show about two college-age ladies who occasionally venture into this other world, which looks a lot like the setting from Death Stranding. And they basically go and hunt creepypasta / urban legends / unknowable eldritch horrors that cause trouble in the real world, something or another. But basically they're just kind of into it for shits and giggles. They just want to have fun and find out new stuff and hunt down these weird mirror cubes that they can they have their mad scientist friend who will pay them for those. So it is surprisingly low key, while on the other hand also introducing some genuinely creepy stuff. If you like the movie Annihilation, this is sort of that, but also with cute anime girls.
I don't remember that movie actually, but
it's very good.
Yeah, the mood of the show is kind of interesting because most of the time it's pretty chill, with the girls just kind of hanging out and teasing each other as they try to figure out what their next move is here, and then it gets fairly serious once they have to actually confront whatever situation is going on. And it does look pretty nice too. It's surprisingly well animated.
It is a weird combination because it's a combination between Leiden Films and a CG company. So all the like close-ups are hand drawn, but like all of the long shots with them just like walking through this desolate CG environment is clearly CG.
There's some like cartoony animation stuff thrown in and stuff during the fun parts and whatnot, which.
But it definitely has like extreme "we made do" vibes going on here. Like we outsourced like half of the stuff to like the CG studio.
Yeah.
Or like we accidentally outsourced them to the CG studio, and then when they came back, it was like, wait a second, this is CG. Yeah, just leave it and no one's gonna notice. Like something like that. Like it is not as organic as something like Dorohedoro, for example. Like.
Right. So I liked episode 1. I think I liked episode 2 more. Like I felt like I feel like the stunt they pulled in episode 2 with the sort of unreliable narrator trick thing. It was like, oh, okay, I have a little more confidence that the author knows what they're doing here.
So it's very much that kind of like I've heard people call it Lynchian. I think that is a bit over the top. Because, I mean, this is still anime we're talking about.
Yeah, right.
But it is sort of that kind of, like unknowable monsters that, like, mess with your mind and, like, oh, no, I'm looking at this person and they're in front of me. No, actually, they're behind me. And like, messing with the laws of reality in order to defeat the monster, that kind of stuff.
But we can still always kill them by shooting them in the head with our gun.
Yes, once you've exposed their weak point, you can...
Right, we also just have guns, like, the infamously hard to obtain in Japan guns.
Well, they said they found them in the other world, right? They're just, like, laying around. They met the one guy who had an even bigger gun in episode 2.
I mean, a thing I also like about this show is that it is a Yuri show that is not, like, where Yuri is, like, the only thing about it. Like, if you compare this to Adachi and Shimamura or Bloom Into You, these are, like, straight romance shows. Whereas this is like, we can have like a lesbian couple who fall in love, but we can also be about other things,
Well, the romantic tension is sort of the side story,
right? Yes, right. But it is still like it is like legitimately a I think it is even published in a Yuri magazine, so like it is actually like Yuri, but it is not that is not the main focus, and I mean that's good because when you don't when you no longer put that stuff in the like corner of romance, you also normalize it as like these are other people who can do other stuff aside from being in love and falling in love,
like
that kind of stuff.
The other shows you mentioned, like that's like the whole show is them obsessing in their heads over their relationships, right? Where this is like that's just a piece of it, and the main thrust is we're hunting these weird not ghost things. But I thought it was pretty solid, and I will keep an eye on that one for now. We'll at least give it the 3-episode test.
Indeed.
So we're on episode 2 now, so hopefully they can pull that one off. All right,
tell me about the
let's
second
move
one,
along
Joe,
to I'm pretty sure I'm the only person that watched this.
Depending on what you say today, I may or may not start watching this show.
Okay, so we're going to talk about Hortensia Saga. There's some kind of anime trash that only I end up watching.
When it's titled something like Hortensia Saga, then yeah.
It definitely gives me some like real fucking low rent PS1 JRPG vibes.
Like it specifically sounds like one of those like low budget Steam RPGs where you're like dungeon crawling, but also doing horticulture. Like it's like it's Rune Factory or something.
So it's Rune Factory.
Who knows? That might be more interesting than what this anime is.
No, this is this caught my attention because it's anime fantasy that's not isekai, and there are no video game mechanics whatsoever.
Wow.
This is just straight up anime medieval fantasy.
Wow.
Some real Fire Emblem-ass, sword fighting and guys with big shoulder pads talking about politics type of
politics, you say.
If I marry these two, can I get Gale Force?
That's basically where they're going, if we're being honest. So I mean the actual premise of the show is there's a coup at the capital, and the young princess is whisked away from to return another day, and in the meantime she's posing as a boy and being raised by one of her retainers or something.
Like mid-80s light novel like type thing. Like, I don't know, man. This is so
mid-80s light novel or 2010s young adult novel.
Look, it is like, here's the thing though, like my initial thought is like, wow, this is some like real generic anime fantasy.
Yeah, like no Filena or whatever, like.
Right, but then I'm like, these things don't get made anymore.
That is true. I'll grant you that.
Like anything in this realm is always going to be isekai or have like the video game angle on it, right?
But I mean, come on, Joe. The thing I guess we gotta ask is like,
is it good?
Like, is that enough to justify it? Like,
I mean, okay. So look, I'm not gonna sit here and lie to you and tell you like this is some like amazing revelation of or something like that, but I don't know. I was probably just maybe I'm just in the mood for this. I don't know. But
I don't know. Maybe we should just I don't know, man. Fuck it. Maybe we should all just go back and like watch that Arslan Saga anime.
Hey, like, ever since we finished Legends of Like Heroes, I fucking thought about it.
Maybe that's a better use of our time.
I don't know what you're talking about, G. Everything that is old and is not made anymore obviously deserves to come back. Just look at the Zeppelin or incest anime.
Oof.
Yeah. So, I don't know. I liked episode 1 more than episode 2, which is a bad.
It's never a good sign.
Yikes.
But like I said, I think I might have just been in the mood for the anime fantasy thing, and this was a pretty competent version of it. Episode 2, how can I put it? I guess specifically, there's like this maid character, and there's like a mascot character that are really annoying.
Oh, good.
And they get a lot of screen time in episode 2.
Great.
That way.
This does literally sound like a low-budget PS1 JRPG.
Yeah, I was just about to say, Jel, nothing's stopping you from just playing another Tales game. There must have been one you haven't played yet.
Well, I'm still playing a lot of Genshin Impact, so... I don't know if I've ever even actually finished a Tales game, to be honest. I've tried, and then they don't keep my interest for the entire.
We don't need to get into this, but as someone who
that's a whole other story.
A few of the Tales JRPGs, I will say that yes, they definitely scratch that itch of like, I just want to play a video game where kids go on adventures and fight God or something.
I feel like this is more like Fire Emblem style,
right? Like you talking about like deposed royalty on the run with their most loyal retainers,
like Yone of the Dawn or something. Like,
have to like recruit their like their band of merry men who will lead the
Right. Yeah. I feel like it's more in that realm than the Tales realm, which is much more.
I mean,
anime,
the real way to tell is when the next episode airs. Can you immediately tell which character the cast meets is going to be the next person they recruit because they look like a normal, attractive anime character?
Oh, we already had that, I think, in episode 1.
That's every anime, G.
I think we already had that. I think we've had that like right off the bat in episode 1.
Okay.
You're like, okay, this guy's got the Fire Emblem general design.
Yeah.
He's going to be the one that you can either recruit or you'll have to kill him later or something.
Sure.
Yeah. So. Anyway, they just scratched a certain itch, I guess, for me. Maybe that's the best way of putting it.
Sure,
I don't know if I would necessarily say
that.
it's all that great, but I'll give it the 3 episodes and see how it goes.
So it's a mediocre Fire Emblem game. In other words, a Fire Emblem game.
Yes. All right. Let's talk about Heaven's Design Team.
Sure.
I think only
another one
Gel
I'm
and G watched this.
Yeah, this sounded like a gel-ass gel show.
I'll say this ended up being a little more edutainment than I was expecting, or at least trying.
I kind of see what you mean, yeah.
Like they have their there's some pretty decent jokes, but like there is also a lot of explaining weird facts about animals, including like a very specific animals in real life segment where they show photos of the animal and explain how koala bears
like
work
it's that kind of
show. Seems kind of shitty to have that and then explicitly position it as like creationism.
It is not Iro.
I mean,
it's not creative.
No, come on.
I know.
Like,
I'm
you're
kidding.
actually getting people getting on this show's case for advocating creationism is no. Just no.
Yeah.
It's clearly a premise for a joke.
Yes.
It's a
I mean, they use they use Galapagos Island as their testing ground.
Yes, I did.
All right.
And like,
okay.
I do enjoy the joke of like, oh, God is just like a fickle freelance client. Like he just like comes to the design team and is like, design an animal with a long neck that can eat the leaves off the top of trees. Do it. I'm not going to give you any other like requisites. I'm not going to give you any reference images to work with. You just have to figure it out.
So they make different variations that ultimately end up on a giraffe or something.
Right.
But, like, they start with like a long necked deer and it just like dies.
Right. Or like, oh, we're gonna make a horse that can fly, but turns out that like to make a horse that could fly, you would have to be like ridiculously jacked or whatever.
that was my favorite joke, was the old man who designed a horse like centuries ago, but and it was like his masterpiece,
and he is clearly just coasting on that one.
He's just redesigning
design.
the horse over and over again.
Yeah, every one of his designs is just a variation of a horse. It's really good, honestly. It's like you've seen this a million times. Like, oh, the old timer at the workplace who like he did something really special for the company like 10 years ago, and like it earned him a lot of goodwill. But
did you watch episode 2, G?
I did not watch episode 2, no.
Okay.
Now I'm just reminded of, like, Shirobako, where you'll have, like, the old dude at the animation department who is really good at animating horses.
It's kind of like that a little bit.
It's kind of like that, yeah.
But, it's like, you have the joke of, like, the different designers all have their own, like, weirdo priorities. Like, one of them primarily concerned about how good the animal tastes. They're basically Big Boss from Metal Gear Solid 3. Another one is like, you have like the weirdo goth girl, and her whole thing is like she makes really weird animals. And initially you're like, how strange, but then it's like, but actually biology does get that strange sometimes. Just look at this platypus or something.
I get the feeling my suspension of disbelief would break for the show if there wasn't at least one member of the design team who just puts huge knockers on everything.
I don't think they're quite going in.
Well, in episode 2, the goth girl is like, "Yeah, let's throw more penises on this thing."
Okay, never mind then.
So yeah,
entertainment.
So yeah, I mean the humor is pretty solid. I felt very similar about this, the kind of the same way I felt about Cells at Work though, where it's like, do I want to watch?
I think for me, the difference is, like, I don't think
12
this one...
episodes of
the
this,
reason I don't think this has as much legs as even Cells at Work is, like... I don't even think the execution is necessarily as good. Like, for better or worse, Cells at Work is a very well-produced show. Like, it's well animated. It has a nice style. Like, there's a very, like, strong presentation aesthetic to it that I feel like this show doesn't even quite nail.
Well, Heaven's Design... I guess more so the, like, maybe the edutainment angle, but Heaven's Design Team is definitely like a straight up gag series. Like,
and I think
it's not like there's no like even episode to episode. There's no plot. It's just segments of
It is purely like that kind of show.
Here's our design process for this animal, and then move on to the next one.
Yeah, and also I will admit that I think I have laughed more talking about the show here than I actually did watching it. Like. I think for better or worse, it is not only is it a gag show, but it's the kind of gag show where somebody shows something weird and then the rest of the cast goes,
it's Nichijou.
Hey now,
that is, no. Nichijou also had the fucking muscle power of some of the world's greatest animators working on it, so.
Yeah, no, and again, that's, I think, I enjoy that stuff, but I understand that is not everybody's cup of tea.
I don't mind. I think it's just that it felt like every joke was kind of just that for better or worse, right? Like they introduced the straight man character whose like sole purpose is just to be like, what? That's crazy, and it's like, all right, man, it's we get it.
Yeah, I don't like. I agree in general that I don't know if it really has the legs to carry for an entire maybe this is another should have been a short thing, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Give us one segment for the one animal or something, and we can move on with our lives. But but I mean, it had its moments for sure. There were a couple good jokes in it, and I'll see if it holds my attention past another episode or two. All right. Did anyone else watch this one too, or am I the only one on this? I'm gonna guess.
Moving on to the long overdue continuation of Stars Align, except this time it's volleyball.
Yikes.
Yeah. So okay, we're talking about I guess 243 Seiin High School boys volleyball team.
Kingdom Hearts volleyball team 285 over 2 days.
Right. So if a lot of people compare this to Stars Align, which I think is fair if you want to establish the tone of the show, I guess. It is more in the let's deal with our personal problems thing than necessarily the sports angle, although there is some sports to it. I've only seen the one episode, so I can't really pass a whole lot of judgment yet. I would just say this feels like better executed but less ambitious if we are going to go with the Stars Align comparison. It's basically just the one you get the kind of one super serious guy who only cares about winning volleyball with the school he has moved to where the volleyball team is a bunch of slackers, and then dealing with that. But so far there has not really been any domestic abuse or
is there a girl who always tags along with them to just dunk on all of the guys in the team?
I don't think so. I'm trying to remember. I feel like somebody's sister or something showed up at some point, but yeah. So far, no. They haven't really gotten into anybody except the main two guys so far. This is also probably maybe like 10% more gay than Stars Align, but
that's a lot. That's
impressive.
Surprisingly more, yeah.
Yeah, that's
I feel like there's a lot more open blushing in this one.
I mean,
but
sure.
But honestly, given that Stars Align had an openly non-binary character and the letters LGBT appear on screens, that's impressive.
Yes. they have they haven't gone to that length unfortunately yet. But like I said, I feel like it's maybe less ambitious with what it's trying to do. But Stars Align was also a mess. Like, whether it be for valid production reasons or
maybe
otherwise.
this show will at least be allowed to finish on its own terms, right?
Right. So at the very least, I feel like it feels like they have a story that they're going to be able to like properly pace out and tell. And maybe one of the things that I remember we did criticize Stars Align for is trying to pick up too many plot threads, right? Like they were always bouncing around to like every kid on the team, and
had a traumatic
had their own
backstory.
super real ass shit going on.
So maybe focusing on just the main characters or whatever is the better plan. But that all said, I thought it was pretty good. If you liked Stars Align and that type of mood they were going for, that tone that they were going for, this is probably going to be right up your alley on it.
It's
so
the opposite of cute girls doing cute things. It's sad boys doing sad sports.
Yes, basically. So I might give it another episode or two. We'll see on that one. All right, let's go to
Horimiya.
The other show that we didn't preview. Horimiya. I didn't include this on our preview because it sounded like it's just some generic romance anime type thing.
It kind of is.
It kind of is.
But are they going to commit a heist? Are they going to steal a train?
I wish.
It kind of is, but it does a few things slightly different. Probably the main thing being people are actually discuss their problems rather than...
Wow.
I would actually argue the main thing is just the execution. It's just a well-made show with natural acting characters, good performances, nice directing, and
right.
Yeah,
but I mean, part of the natural part is like people actually addressing their problems,
people
and not
acting like responsible,
like
casual
human
people
beings
who just
right.
hang out and whatever. Yeah, but you were going to mention a specific conflict that ensues in episode 1, I'm assuming.
Which conflict are you talking about?
No, is it like the thing at the end where it's like, whoa, there's a misunderstanding, and then they actually bring it up and they talk about it and they're like friends again?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I think that was what you were alluding to.
Yeah, like that would have taken like 8 episodes and another
in Kimi Todoke or something.
Right. Like of the character being like, "Oh, are they mad at me? What's happening? Why aren't they talking to me?" And it kind of happens a little bit again. Well, I don't know if you watched episode 2 yet.
Not yet, no.
But there's another similar kind of thing that happens in episode 2 where it gets resolved by the end of the episode. But yeah, the main couple's relationship feels just a lot more natural, like they're normal people. I would say probably the weakest point to me was the actual, like, quote unquote hook of the show.
Right. So the hook is that, you have Hori, who is like at school, she's a very outgoing, popular, fashionable girl, while at home she's very homely and domestic, and she like wears comfortable clothes and she does a lot of housework. And then there's the boy Miya, or Miyamoto, I think his full name is. Miyamura, yeah, right. That like who's a complete like loner nerd at school, but at home he's like a super flashy delinquent with tattoos and piercings. So that's like the premise, like
right. That's like
opposites
that's
subtract
like
twice on over, like.
Well, I think they're going for the not people aren't what they look like.
Yeah.
Everybody has different
I mean, in
faces
in that
put
regard,
on
it sort of reminds me of Toradora.
Yeah, a little bit, but I feel like that becomes kind of irrelevant very quickly.
Like they just start hanging out, and then it just
like they just start hanging out, and it's like, oh well, that's a thing, and then they move on with their lives.
I mean, I also can't really see any plot stemming from this premise. Like
there really isn't much of one.
Yeah, like
the
only
time
it's
like
okay,
it's kind of just
Miyamura's gonna get in trouble because of his tattoos and his piercings, and
that's like the only thing
where it ends. Yeah,
they went for was like he has to wear his like full sleeve jersey
Winter
in
uniform.
Gym class because he has to hide his tattoos or whatever. But yeah, I mean, otherwise though, this kind of stuff's catnip for me, so that's I'm all aboard on it. But at the end of the day, it is kind of just a
romance slice of life
romance show. It's just very well executed, I guess. What I'm interested in, I was looking up. I couldn't quite figure out what was going on with the manga, because it looks like, from what Wikipedia is telling me, it ran from 2007 to 2011.
Yeah, it's pretty old.
So,
and then somebody like immediately redid it or something.
It was a webcomic for several years, and then sorry, swallowed water wrong. It was a webcomic for several years, and then that ended, and then it got like a quote-unquote proper manga adaptation that is still running.
But is like the story over, I guess, or are they still
of the like
adapting?
original version?
Right.
Is my understanding.
Right, because the original version is actually just called like Hori and Miyamura or something,
right.
And then they rebranded it as Horimiya. So I guess with any of these things, like I want to know, is the story done or not, because I feel like that has a huge impact on how the anime, ends or wraps up or whatever. Are we actually going to get somewhere with all this? And yeah, I don't know. We'll have to see. But so far, I really loved the first 2 episodes.
If you're into
this kind of thing, it is top tier.
Yeah. If you're into just like slice of life, people hanging out, people just like having a relatively good time together, domestic life, that kind of stuff, this one will be right up your alley.
Yeah. All right. I've been having too much fun.
The stuff that gives G a heart attack, unlike the next show.
I was gonna say I've been having too much fun, so let's talk about X-Arm. I just have to revisit this after we talked about
the future of anime is here, guys.
Oh boy!
Like my expectations were so low, and they've somehow managed to exceed.
This kind of fucking show is why, people know that I tend to be maybe the most anti-CG guy on the chat, and for every like BEASTARS and Dorohedoro out there that's like, you know what, actually, like, I think they can make CG anime work as long as, you know, because at the end of the day, it's a tool set. It's about how you use it. Then something like X-Arm comes along, and I'm like, oh, right, this is why I fucking hate anime CG. Like, it's...
I feel like even by anime CG standards, this was...
Dude, this shit looks worse than, like, Ruby Season 1.
This has got to be... Yeah, like, I've seen, like, MMD music videos from, like, 2009.
Yeah, dude, I've seen, like, fan-made videos. Like,
look better than this.
I mean, this looks worse than, like, the stuff Monty Aum did before Ruby, and that's, like, 20
sure,
years
yeah,
ago
you know, yes, I would agree, yeah. Like, you know, it's...
Because it was, like... Not only was the animation bad, and you get the whole Uncanny Valley thing, but even like the directing and like the shot, but nobody had any concept of shot composition or anything. Like there was one shot. I don't know why this was one very small. I'm gonna just get petty here, and there was one very just like small thing that just drove me crazy. Where there was one shot where the main android girl is like in the duct with the brain computer thing.
Oh yeah.
And she's talking for like 30 seconds, and the way the camera is, like the brain thing is blocking her mouth.
Oh.
And I'm just sitting there like, just rotate the camera like 5 degrees.
It's CG. You can do that. Like
it's like that's the whole point of CG.
Right, like that's the thing,
you just,
right?
like, rotate the camera 5 degrees.
If you're gonna use CG, the whole point of using CG is you have the same consistent model in every shot. You can adjust the camera.
So there's like 30 seconds of almost no motion on the screen because her mouth is being blocked by the computer.
I thought you were gonna talk about like the other shot of like the superimposed like fucking still of the ghost dude like sliding over onto the android girl. Or how about the shot of her, like, the android girl carrying the other girl and running, and the other dude, like, bursts out the door and is running behind them, and it just, like, fucking...
There was also the shot where the dude is talking to his brother or something, and the brother's just normal 2D.
It's 2D, and, like, actually looks like an okay, like, anime
and then
character.
This dude is CG standing directly next to him.
It is, like...
It looked like a visual novel cutscene.
It's, like, even worse than, what was it? Koto... Fuck. Iro, the plane
the Magnificent
show.
Kotobuki.
Right, the Magnificent Kotobuki, like, which also had the issue of, like, the 2D segments, the few that were there, like, immediately jarred with the CG, but this did it, like...
This is next level.
A million times worse. And this is the show that was like, supposed to be, like, the revolution in cinematics or whatever, right? Like, it's the one that
talked a big game on this.
Cyberpunk 2077 of anime.
Right?
Yikes.
Like, it had zero, like, people who have ever worked in anime ever, and boy, it fucking shows. But, like, the weird thing is, like, even by the standards of, like, a live-action production, this would still look awful. So it's like...
Yeah, there's no context that would make this...
I mean, let's be honest here. Even if this was animated by Kyoto Animation or Bones, it would still suck balls because the plot is complete bullshit.
I mean, whatever. Like, you know, like, as someone who enjoyed No Guns Life, like, I can enjoy just, like, fucking, like...
You could have pulled that. Like, the plot wasn't great, but you could have pulled it off.
I mean, my point being, like, if you had Bones animate a 2-minute-long segment of an android girl double-fisting rifles and taking down a bunch of, like, dudes in, like, this one uncut shot... That would be pretty badass.
Yeah, sure. Right.
But the way they do it in this show is, like, so hilariously bad.
Okay.
Yeah, even the and it's like they went too far on the fight choreography.
Yeah, that's the thing I wanted to bring up. Like, the fight choreography, like, if this was well directed, those fights could have been almost cool.
Sure, yeah, definitely. Like,
the, like, constant spinning camera.
Oh, gosh.
Like, yeah, they like went as I feel like they spent the entire like planning stage choreographing the fight sequence, and then like, oh, we have to do everything else. And
yeah, it's
quickly do this, guys, and we'll rotoscope over it. It'll look great.
Yeah.
Oh boy, it's just it's a really baffling production because
I'm almost shocked that they released it, to be honest.
And that Crunchyroll actually promotes this.
I mean, on some level,
well, they don't really promote it.
You know, it's just, I think it's a little bit like video games, right? Of like, even if you know the video game you're working on is bad and like needs like another year of time, like sometimes the number crunchers, right? Just the suits decide, like, fuck it, like, put it out there because like
even if people like me watch it for the sake of seeing the train wreck factor.
Right,
I'm still getting a click on it.
Crunchyroll will log that as a statistic, you know?
Right.
Like,
of course, I won't watch episode 2 or more after that, but...
And they probably don't expect you to at this point, but it's like the work is already
that's just
been
cutting
done.
their
Honestly,
losses
I
at
would
this
like
point.
to check in on like episode 9 of this and see if it has fallen apart even more.
Oh, by the way,
Like,
speaking of episode 2, have you guys seen the screenshot of
I
the
have
kiss?
not.
Oh man,
boy.
I'm
there's a
posting.
kiss?
I'm posting it in the Discord right now.
Okay.
Oh,
Live
man,
reaction?
I need your guys' fresh reaction.
Wait, what?
They censored it.
can't show this in my
They
Christian
censored the
anime.
kiss?
Yeah.
They put the
The two girls kiss in episode 2, and they put the fucking JoJo
They put the
light
ray of
flash right on them.
they put the hot springs steam on it.
Good news, Jell. I found the podcast header image.
Oh, I'm committed now.
How
Oh,
likely
it's so
are the odds
good.
that they just censored this because they didn't want to like animate a kiss because they knew
Right,
it
it
would
would
look like
just-
It would
garbage?
just like clip together or something.
Yeah.
Right, because right,
they're just there,
that
their
is
mouths clipping.
Right, that's
Like
like
Mass
the-
Effect
I think
1 level, like...
right, like having to show two CG models' mouths clipping into each other. Is it just easier to censor it? Oh, it's so
my
good.
God.
It's so good.
What a disaster.
Like, I don't know, like, Aqua, you say you want to watch episode 9. I don't want to hate watch this. I don't have the time for it, but man...
Oh no, I
if
don't
this
want to
anime-
keep watching it. I just want
Right.
to check out on
but,
episode
like,
9 to
oh,
see.
if
Like,
this anime keeps giving us screenshots like this, I don't know, man. It might be worth it, but...
I want Sakuga blog to cover this.
I was just about to say we should come up with like the opposite of Sakuga blog, like a blog that only exists to like post screenshots of like shit.
I mean, there is a
anime.
Gohan show airing this
yeah.
season,
Yeah,
which
yeah.
we didn't
We
watch.
didn't even watch that, but somehow the Gohan's anime might not be the worst looking anime of the season,
Yeah.
thanks to Exarm.
I saw some
And-
clips of it, and it almost looked like average and not horrible, but
Wow.
I mean,
By
Gohan's
their
problem
standards,
has
anyway.
always been art design and not necessarily.
oh, they've had some animation problems too.
Oh, I know.
That's-
I've watched K, but
Well, that's more up and down, but yes, the art design is always atrocious. Anyway, X-Arm is a train wreck as expected.
I will
and
say I feel bad. I looked it up. Turns out this actually is a manga adaptation.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
like,
it is.
Man, I thought Golden Kamui had it bad.
yeah,
I feel,
imagine being this mangaka.
like, I don't even know if the manga is good, but it doesn't deserve to be done this fucking dirty. Like, I did look at like some of the volume covers, and I was like, oh, this looks all right, you know, in the sense
yeah,
of like,
the I've seen
know-
like because I think they had the
art in the ED, I think, is by the original.
yeah I think they had
artist.
the artist do like some promo
And it's
art
like-
and stuff, and
it's-
like that looks pretty good.
Yeah, it's perfectly serviceable, like
Perfectly
seinen
fine.
cyberpunk
Yeah,
art.
and they
And
just
then,
butchered it.
like, it's
Sad.
I just, you know,
This is-
I just wonder how they feel, you know, because you probably can't say anything, right? You probably signed a contract that says you can't just like, or you know, just Japanese
Yeah.
politeness prevents you from just shit talking this anime. But
This is like the scene in Girlish Number when they do the trailer for
oh,
the fake anime, whatever it was called.
Millennium Princess Cross Kowloon Overlord.
Yes, yes, and they're all like shocked at how bad it looks. Except this actually looks worse than.
yeah,
Shout out to Girlish Number, but all right, let's move on.
all right, let's move on to
Good
something.
riddance to that show. Let's talk about Back Arrow.
I think you
Back
mean
arrow.
Baka Yaro.
Fucking
God,
hell.
this show is stupid.
It's
show's
really
so
dumb.
Oh, this
but
show's
also
fucking
I'm
dumb as
kind of
hell,
into
and
it.
I think I like it.
Okay, so first of all, as predicted, this is some like janky early 2000s, early to mid 2000s.
I mean, I think you hit on the head when you said it has Gun X Sword energy. Like,
yes.
Yeah. I was gonna
See-
say this hangs out at the same like cafeteria table as like Scried.
it's
Right.
cred,
It's
yeah.
it's in that.
Oh, God.
Yeah, they're all friends. Yes.
I think that
Totally
wasn't that also
s-
Goro Taniguchi.
I don't know,
So-
maybe, but it's just like that same.
I
like,
think it
group
was
of, like,
actually. I think it was. I
like
think that
same,
was.
same group of just like gleefully self-aware dumbasses. Just
It's yeah. I think that's also Goro Taniguchi actually. But okay, so I feel like episode 2 is. Did you guys watch episode 2?
yeah.
Okay, I feel like that's where like it got really weird. There was just some like just random stuff happening. Like my favorite was when the village is getting destroyed, and the guy it's like, I'm gonna go hide in the well, and Back Arrow is just sleeping in the well for some reason.
Yeah. Or like the shot of like, you know, like the shit heel punk kid's house got destroyed in episode 1, and so Back Arrow builds him a new house, except it's just like two sticks and a tarp.
Yeah,
and when that gets destroyed anyways, the kid is still like, no, not my house again.
Right.
I preferred episode 2, honestly. I think like
I feel like there was a lot more personality in episode 2, whereas 1 was kind of like bog standard, you know, set up for one of these types of shows. The other part I liked in episode 2 was when he gets picked up by the fancy researcher guy, and
Shuby.
He just gets bored of him talking and just punches him in the face.
It's just like they're really just. I mean, this is like the most fucking like, you know, Nakashima-ass character, right? Of just like good-hearted idiot, like taken to its like most extreme.
Yeah, like Back Arrow is so dumb. He's almost like a barely sentient human being.
He's a talking plot device, right? Yeah. Like you just sort of vaguely point him in the direction of the plot, and he'll go do his thing.
But yeah, it's got some eccentricities to it. Yeah. Like the other thing with the one woman is the sheriff of the village, but there's another, but it's not the one that's dressed like a sheriff.
Right.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't think anybody in that show is dressed like.
Yeah, the other girls screamed sheriff to me personally, but anyway.
Yes.
I think my opinion is going to be shaped by what happens in episode 3, which I feel like, I don't know if you saw the title of episode 3, but kind of gives away what's going to happen.
Yeah, they're going to get their Daiguren giant space.
And I think that's going to really set the tone for what the show actually is, which I think is going to be a, you know, adventure to the wall type of thing with the whole town.
Yeah.
Right.
Which could set us up for some, you know, episodic stops along the way, I'm sure, or whatever.
What I am fully expecting.
Right. I mean, it seems like Sunrise is betting pretty big on this
Sunrise.
One because, or no, shit, not Sunrise. My bad.
I couldn't even tell you what's you. It's like Studio
I'm sorry. I thought Sunrise because Bandai is betting pretty big on the merchandising of this show. Bandai already announced like figures for all of the main cast and their mechs.
Weird.
So like that's pretty rare, you know, these days to bank that heavily on the merchandising. But not only that,
model kits for the mechs.
Yeah, all the mechs are getting kits already. But also because they announced that it's getting 2 cores. It's going to be a full 26 episode series. Like, they are clearly.
I mean, if we are emulating the early to mid 2000s, yes, you need the full 26 episodes.
Fair, yeah. I'm kind of with you, Jel, in the sense that. Look, I love Nakashima. Like, he is maybe one of my favorite anime writers, like, of all time. But, like, I feel like his specific brand of anime dumbassery needs the right person to work off of. And I know this is pretty predictable because I'm just going to say, and I think that person is always Imaishi. But,
well, he did he do Gridman?
Oh.
Am I getting confused?
No, he did DNA,
okay.
though.
Gridman was Keiichi Hasegawa, who did Rage Bomb Genesis.
But,
Yes. So, so the point is, his good stuff has all been with Imaishi, right? Like,
his best stuff, definitely. Like, he's done good stuff without Imaishi. Yes. I think, yes, you could definitely say Nakashima's most famous works are when he is working off of Imaishi. And I think that, because I think some of the dumbassery is entertaining, but, like, at least in episode 1 anyways, didn't quite land with me. I think it's working better in 2, now that I'm getting more used to the pace of it. But I am kind of curious how it's all going to play out, because, like, the show is very much leaning into this, like, kind of, you know, not very serious, self-aware, comical vibe, but then, like, you know, you have your bits of, like, oh, Shubi, the Chinese dude from Not China is, like, reading up on the forbidden texts of the world, you know, and, like, there's, like, a war going on between 2 nations, and the other one is led by a princess who's being led astray by her evil vizier, and it's like...
Right, and the other one is the slightly more modern looking one.
Right, like colonial America or something.
Right.
It's like intelligence truly is the price of smiles.
Yeah. And it's just a little. I'm curious, like, what kind of vibe is all going for then, because I don't think it's actually going to seriously try to like weave some kind of like geopolitical tale.
Oh, absolutely not.
But it's like for some reason though, it still insists on focusing
spending time on that. Right?
Yeah, and so I'm a little curious what the focus of the show ends up being.
I think in the best case scenario, that'll just kind of pop in when needed to up the tension, and we won't really dwell too much on it. But who knows? If they've got the full 2 cores to work with, they might pad that out with, I don't know. But
yeah,
I think that I do like the idea of where they're going in theory. If it is going to be sort of like the, everybody sets sail for the wall, and, whatever wacky hijinks we encounter on the way.
And I do like the gimmick of, like, the mechs are decided by,
your conviction.
In their own words. Right, the conviction of the pilot, and that decides its power set. And so, like, I hope that girl character gets a win and stops, like, jobbing all the time.
Yeah.
But I do think it is very funny that the 2, like, one-off baddies she has fought, their convictions are specifically hard counters to her own.
Right.
Like, they're so specifically written to be, like, no cells to her. It's like...
Yeah, I do hope she gets to do something.
I do, but I guess what I mean is that if this show continues to operate on this kind of like weirdly consistent dumbass logic of my power counters your power because my conviction, my highly specific
and because Back Arrow has no specific conviction, he's all floppy and flexible and
weird and melty, but
right. All right. So I think the potential's still here on this one, but.
Yeah.
It's still, like Iro, you said earlier, on thin ice.
Yep.
I think is this could go south pretty quick, but
yeah, I mean, let's be real here. Goro Taniguchi does not exactly have a spotless record.
Yeah, he's hit or miss, right?
Yeah.
Like, there's I don't know, but yeah, we'll see. I do feel like episode 3 is going to give us a pretty good idea of what kind of show we're in for, though. So
I hope the ship has a big dumb face on it.
We shall see. All right, let's move along to SK8 the Infinity. This was a show that I watched and totally remember what happened. It was that good. Not sarcastic at all. No, I mean, this was... I guess it's about... Okay. I guess it's about skateboarding.
Ostensibly, yeah.
Except there's like this wild underground downhill racing circuit.
Yeah,
it's still more about skateboarding than I thought it might be. To be honest,
I will say I do. Yes, I do like that part. I'll admit I'm not 100% sold on this show yet. I will admit some of that is being a Californian, and so as a result having my own highly specific understanding of what skate culture is, and seeing it filtered through Japan in anime is a little jarring, but...
Right.
I do
think... this looked like Mad Max or something, like when they were doing the...
A little, it's I mean, if you really want me to get into the weeds here, it's that, like, it seems like the show is more, like, centered around racing, which, at least in American skateboarding culture, is an almost entirely irrelevant aspect of skateboard culture. Like, American skateboard culture is all about trick skating. Racing is for chumps.
What about Tony Hawk's Downhill Jam?
The worst Tony Hawk game?
That's the thing, right? Everybody knows Downhill Jam is the worst level. So why would you make an entire anime about the worst level of Tony Hawk Pro Skater? I don't...
So,
anyways.
I will say, I guess I didn't see them flipping the script on who was going to be the main character here as far as the... I guess the... I only watched the... I don't know if... Did you guys watch another episode of it? I only watched the first episode, but... Are they going for, like, the redhead kid is going to be building the skateboards and the blue hair kid's going to be riding? Is that what they're going for?
That kind of seems to be the vibe, like...
Which, by the way, the whole thing of he was a really good snowboarder and therefore can skateboard magically, I don't think that works.
Well, no, I think that... So here's the thing. I will actually say, I actually like the second episode a lot more than the first, because...
Okay.
And again, I know that, like, my qualms with this show are, like, very weirdly specific, you know, and I do think that overall the show is very well made. It looks really good. And
it does, yes.
I think that episode 2 assuaged a lot of my fears about, like, how much skateboarding would be the focus of it, because it goes pretty heavy on it, honestly. Like... If episode 1 was like, oh wow, this like snowboarding guy might be a big skateboarding prodigy too, episode 2 is like the return to reality of like, actually dude, you kind of got lucky because that whole race was downhill. Like,
right, that's probably the closest you're gonna get to snowboarding on a
like,
skateboard.
Most episode 2 is him, like the blue-haired dude, like trying to get used to a skateboard on flat ground and fucking up constantly.
Right,
like, it's basically 20 minutes of the dude bailing over and over again, falling flat on his face, trying to do even the most, like, basic, like, skateboarding maneuvers.
They don't tape his feet back onto the
Right, and that actually, like, I felt really good about. Because, like, okay, good. He is not just the magical prodigy that instantly gets it. Like, I mean, he still masters an ollie in 2 weeks, which, if any of you have ever stepped on a skateboard before, that's fucking crazy. Like... As, you know, like every Californian child, I once stepped on a skateboard to try and pick it up as a hobby. Let me tell you, after 2 weeks, I couldn't even stand on that thing, like, stable.
Right.
But they make him pay for his expertise, you know? He falls down a bunch, and, you know, he has to, like, understand the subtleties of the sport that are different from snowboarding. And I think that actually does also help drive the character dynamic a little bit better compared to the first episode. Like, in episode 2, they kind of have more room to breathe, and so their relationship gets a little better fleshed out, and as a result, I think it is more interesting.
Yeah, I guess that's kind of what I would have wanted to see coming out of episode 1. I understand, like, I'm not going to begrudge them the decision to make episode 1 kind of all, like, action, exciting, try to suck you in, but... For me, the effect was, like, I just didn't care. Like, it was very nice to look at, but I was like, yeah, but I'm not, like, getting anything out of this.
Right.
So I guess moving along into episode 2 to that direction is a little more interesting to me.
I definitely think it helps. I will say, though, kind of like Back Arrow, I think this show is a little bit on thin ice in the sense of that I like it, but it has not instantly won me over.
Right.
I think the reason, though, I do like it is that in a lot of ways, this show does give me a lot of Hypnosis Mike energy, but the difference between this and Hypnosis Mike is that even though both of them are clearly more concerned about hot boys than anything else, unlike Hypnosis Mike, Skate has paid more, like, lip service to skating as an activity, like, in just 2 episodes than anything we ever saw in Hypnosis Mike towards, like, rapping and hip-hop. So...
Right.
If nothing else,
there's more connection to the craft here.
Like, if nothing else, Bones at least did their homework. Like, either somebody on that show really loves skateboarding, or they just did a lot of research. But
yeah,
so I do appreciate that.
All right, I mean, you guys gonna keep up with that one?
For
I'm kind of
a couple more episodes, probably.
For now, yeah. I mean, it's one of those things of like, oh, it is just like so well made now.
I mean. It looks good enough that just watching for the sake of looking at something pretty is totally valid, I think.
I will need to see how much substance it does have in the long run, because while I think the main duo, I think they're justifying their friendship in episode 2,
it's
the rest of the cast is like...
You have, like, sexy, mysterious guy, and jacked, buff guy, and small, mischievous guy...
The boyish one, you know, like the whole.
You gotta cover all the bases,
right? The whole male.
I mean, it's
crew.
just like any other harem anime.
The entire Otherside High School host club is here.
Yeah, I mean, literally, yes. Honestly, it's. Yeah, we'll see how it goes, I guess.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's wrap up then. Last show on the list, Wonder Egg Priority.
The big one.
Is this the big one?
Well, that again, in a divisive season where probably half of us are going to say this is the greatest thing ever, and half of us are not going to care. I loved this. Yeah. This is exactly what I wanted it to be. When we were speculating, like anytime this just confirms anytime an anime description tells you absolutely nothing and it's an anime original, it's probably going to be weird.
I mean, that's why they don't tell you anything.
Yeah, which is good. And yeah, this was kind of weird, kind of surreal stuff going on here. The the final premise of it kind of gives me, well, we've made comparisons to like Flip Flappers or
Flip Flappers, Kyoso Giga, anything Ikuhara did, like that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's kind of I guess by the end of the show, it's like, trying to save the girl in the beginning,
right?
Type of thing. The presentation is like top notch as far as
they're
like
trying so hard to look like KyoAni.
Yeah, they are, which is probably not a bad thing to try when you. They kind of pull it off. I think where it works best, because even the character designs kind of look a little bit like KyoAni, but
yeah.
If you told me this was a KyoAni show, I would have believed you. Like,
yeah, I think where it works best is there's a lot of like,
foot shots,
unspoken communication, a lot of body language type of stuff, which KyoAni does very good. There's like not a ton of dialogue. A lot of it is told through the visuals. Like I feel like you could have watched, because only this was like one of the last episodes to premiere, so there's
right.
only one
Yeah, it's the only one that hasn't had a
of us
second
recording.
episode.
Yeah.
But I feel like you could have watched that episode with no sound and probably still had the gist of what was going on, because there's so much like nonverbal communication happening between the like I said, the character's body language and just like the visuals and everything. I like one moment that stood out to me was like, so like there's this, like, I guess a little bit of the premise without spoiling too much. There's like this other world thing that this girl gets into. She finds like the worst gacha machine of all time, and and she finds this other girl there who's being chased by these monsters or whatever. And there was one part where they have like a break from being chased, and the girl explains that the monsters are chasing her, and that the main girl should be safe. And when the monsters show up again, the girl's like, "Okay, let's get out of here. Let's leave." And the other girl just doesn't say anything and just kind of like stays there. And like there's a lot of just like, there's no dialogue at that moment, but there's like just a lot of communication going on of like, yeah, I'm not going with you.
They ain't chasing me. I'm
like,
just gonna chill.
Right, and it's all like communicated without any dialogue whatsoever, and it was like, okay, that's pretty good. But yeah, I think where I would differentiate this from something like Flip Flappers, where that's like a lot more fantasy type of spectacle.
Yeah. Whereas this is clearly a psychological show where there's like...
Yeah, this is much more grounded in like they're going for like sort of a psychological type of thriller or horror type of thing when they're in the other world. And I guess they're setting it up so where she's probably going to have to save... Well, I don't really know what's going to happen, to be honest. But there's a lot of like real... Yeah, I just love it. Mm-hmm. I loved it. There was just a lot of like I said, all the nonverbal stuff, a lot of striking imagery with some of the more surreal elements that are going on in the other world, like the girls with the mosaic faces and stuff like that. Like, again, if there's two kinds of catnip, I mentioned the Horimiya thing with the anime rom-com thing. This is my other thing that
I will definitely back you up on this. This is also very much a me show, the sort of like interpersonal, psychological, like weird, messed up kind of thing that also deals with real life issues in a like not like in a like
intensely stylized manner.
Yes, that's a good way of putting it. I wanted to say not like direct or not like soap opera-ish, but like indirect, stylish kind of way, with a lot of strong, striking visual imagery, great animation, great I mean, I've been saying this so many times during this podcast, but it's just a show that's overall very well produced, and that like more than its peers, I think, in terms of like shows that do like, oh, we go to the other world where everything is weird. It deals with like it seems to have actual like an actual reflection of the characters and their situations in mind. It is also interesting when they're not in the magical weird world, which I think is a very strong thing to pull off.
You could almost draw some parallels to like Otherside Picnic this season, right? Like with the whole otherworld thing, and where that show has like a very straightforward presentation to it, like a very literal, straightforward presentation to it. This is like, you can see the difference. Like, it's hard to explain on a podcast, obviously.
I mean, it's also hard to explain because we've only seen the first episode. You know me, when I get
right, but I mean, as far as
like philosopher/psychologist hat on, I could ramble on about this kind of stuff for ages. But right now, we only have like a bunch of breadcrumbs to talk about. Like,
right. Yep. But I think the upside is tremendous on this one. I think, should they be able to keep the level of quality up.
This is definitely the one to beat for me. Like, it is.
But I think with anything this ambitious, it could also go south pretty
like
easily.
I think this show, for now at least, like, it seems to be like they're going to do a kind of like Girl of the Week kind of thing, because they always refer to things like, you get an egg from the gacha, and in the egg is like a suicide victim, I guess, and then you're going
at the very least, I think they're dead.
Yeah, a dead person, and you have to save them from their like symbolic trauma. So you could do like interesting episodic stuff for that. I'm always in for stuff that can do like tell great stories in the span of a single episode. But I wonder if it's going to be, is it going to be like that sort of like Death Parade? That's kind of what this could be. Or is it going to focus on like a larger arc plot focused on our main character?
Yeah, probably a little bit of both. The episode ends with her meeting the other girl, who I think they're implying is kind of in the same boat. So I don't know if they're gonna like.
There are like 4 main girls they at least announced as like the main cast for this show.
Yeah, so maybe they're all in the same boat where they have to rescue the other girls or something. But yeah, I think there's a ton of potential here, and I'm very encouraged by the first episode. So definitely keep an eye on that one.
I'm just always up for shows about like psychological things and characters who don't feel like they fit in, who are misfits, who are excluded from the regular environments that we normally see in school. Like,
right.
And I think this is very good.
The main girl stopped going to school.
Yeah, I think this is a far better like depiction of something like the insidiousness of bullying, of othering people for like completely bizarre reasons, like I have heterochromia. The nail that sticks out is going to be hammered down, and I know that like the idea of I am a misfit is something that is constantly examined in anime. Like basically all anime is, hey, you think you're a loser, but actually you're super cool.
Yeah, right.
And this is something that deals with that in a more mature way. It deals with like personal trauma, personal like survivor's guilt. It's not afraid to show characters having flaws, like in the aforementioned scene where our main character just sort of abandons the girl who is being chased by the monsters because I'm not being chased by monsters. So I'm very excited to see where it goes next. Like,
yep. All right. Well, that's going to do it then for our list here. Obviously, there's a lot of shows we did not talk about, so if you are listening and think we missed something, please let us know. I'm trying to improve on our call to action for our podcast. So
please let us know why you're excited to hear our opinion about Chex Notes, the hidden dungeon only I can enter.
Oh God, I don't remember if that was one of the really bad ones or not, but
it's just one of the ones where you're like, oh, he needs to gather erotic energy to level up or some bullshit like that.
Yeah. Well, Yeah, the only one that looked like passable to me was the spider one.
Right.
But that's neither here nor there. I have not watched that. All right, so let's wrap things up with our housekeeping then. You can check us out at theglorioblog.com. My apologies to all our readers that we did not actually get written first looks out this season. We had just too much going on for me this past couple of weeks.
2021 has been a lot.
There's been a lot going on. But yeah, we'll get everybody next time, and we'll of course be covering things throughout the season like we normally do. So yeah, check us out at theglorioblog.com. Follow us on Twitter at theglorioblog. You can subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Amazon Music, Podbean, Stitcher, and also on our YouTube channel. Tell your friends, tell your enemies, and we'll catch everybody next time.